Hello, everybody, and welcome to another installment of the Realize the World podcast. Today, we'll be discussing the illusion of words. Language is something we all use to communicate. It is a almost like a foundational block to our lives. The way that we interact with each other, compared to some animals or other species of we rely heavily on communication. We're very social animals, so to say. You can look out in the animal kingdom, and you might not. There's other animals that prefer solitary to be solitary rather than socialize with others of their kind. But us as humans are very different from that, and that we do everything from raising children all the way to conducting business. With using language. Um, Language is it's got a very important role in today's modern world. You can probably imagine back what we could say the caveman days, um, where they were probably using hand gestures or different methods to communicate, but with no defined language. And that goes to show you that even though we've come a long way, um, we've been able to still communicate in lieu of actually using our voice. Our voice only came into play at some point when we started, we got, I guess, intelligent enough to start labeling and naming things or categorizing them and doing that amongst each other. So, with that, we pretty much developed a world that revolves around it. I mean, you if you go back in time and we can find paintings, we could see that back caveman days, they would paint stuff on the walls to tell stories. We don't know if they had a language at that point, but just painting or leaving marks behind on history is a way of communicating, a way of telling stuff. But with the illusion of words, at least in today's society, we get lost ourselves. The biggest issue is that we start to identify with these words. For example, I am a doctor, I am a banker, I am a college graduate, I am I'm a race car driver. I am poor. I am fat. I am skinny. It's not just your accomplishments, but also nouns or words that would describe you. I am short. I am tall. And once you start to identify with those words, then you start to alienate yourself from others. And then that creates another whole different psychological effect on you to where, oh, I'm different. Something's wrong with me. Oh, on the other end of the spectrum, I'm elite. I'm the best. I've done this, this, and this compared to something else where somebody may not have done that and you feel like you're higher than them. People on the other end of the spectrum, they don't feel good enough to do certain things because of these labelings and categorizations or names. But really, these are they're simply actions. But us with language, we label them, and that's all we know. That's all that we understand of it. When somebody says they're a college graduate, that doesn't tell you what they had to do to accomplish that. And so, that's why there's something, we say it's easier said than done. And everything in life is that way. It's not just doing something difficult. It's because words are simply labels or names or categories. Um, a college graduate has to put at least 2 years of their time into that school system, take various classes, depending on whatever subject they're getting a degree in, on top of general education. All of that is encompassed in a college graduate, right? And so you can see how simple words can be deceiving, because that no words will ever show or tell you the entire story. And yes, we may use words to do that, but it's like painting a picture. And so words become like art. How well can you describe it? How well can you use more words to create the picture of, for example, for me, how I lost weight. If we look back in time, it's about a year and a half now. I can tell you I lost weight in those, what, 3 words. I lost weight. But there's been numerous things that I've done. And so let's go ahead and jump into breaking this down. Um, so I call this an illusion of words, and as I just gave you a high level explanation. But let's get to the lower level. Let's get into the nitty gritty. So language, and there's I don't know how many languages in the world, hundreds of them, is simply an agreement that more than one human being can use to communicate. Um, we'll focus on English for the purpose of this podcast, but um, we have like a dictionary, right? And in that dictionary, it's almost like a table of content. Um, and I say that for the entire dictionary. So you look up a word, this is what it means, and it gives you all kinds of what if it's a noun. The word is defined by more words, and then we categorize them: nouns, verbs, adjectives. um and so in essence, it's an agreement of how we as English speakers will describe something. This podcast, if you go look that up wherever it may be defined, is it's like a talk show, audio based talk show. And we all come to an agreement that we'll call these type of things a podcast. This is the same for every single word. We call a dog because we all agree that if it has 4 legs and barks, has a snout and a tail, that's a dog. But that word never will describe the whole essence of the dog. The dog's got a brain too. The dog's got organs. It's got 5 senses like ourselves. Hear, touch, smell, taste. Um, it a dog. It's everything in the world. Just to try to put a name on it never covers the essence. And when it comes to consciousness, like us as humans, we have consciousness. A lot of the other animals have consciousness, and that's not covered by words. You have different personalities, different uh I guess, yeah, personalities or characteristics. And that, if we say 2 different humans, oh, they're just humans, doesn't encompass, because if you say they're just humans, it sounds like they're the same, right? But in reality, we know almost every person in the world has their own unique personality or characteristics, whether physical or mentally. And so this illusion of words does not give us that. And one of the problems is, as humans, and so much like science, we study everything, and then our curiosity went deeper. We looked at it with microscopes and went even deeper with, even finer microscopes, and now we know there's atoms, electrons, and apparently there's more theories, or it's been proven. There's wave particles, dark matter. And, we keep drilling deeper and deeper, and we keep labeling things finer and finer, and that's just like with our words. I told you the words in the dictionary are defined by more words, and we take that deeper and deeper. This is the definition for this word, and then this is the definition for all the words that we use to define the definition. And it just makes for a very complex labeling system, so to say, in which really none of it covers the essence of what anything is. We can say, oh, that's a tree, but the tree is made of millions of cells, and these cells have some kind of consciousness to them because they all know their job and function to grow. They're not like computers where you put instructions in a written format, and the computer executes it. We're talking about living matter that does its job autonomously, and without any additional input. We might even add dynamically, because a lot of plants, or a lot of life, knows how to adjust to its conditions. That's how we have well, that's not how we have seasons, but that's how plants shed their leaves in different seasons and grow new leaves or blossom flowers in another season. But we just calling it a tree never encompasses any of that. And so at some point, as I began the podcast with, we as humans start to identify with these words. And I don't know if this is a fault in the English language, but we start to label ourselves. Oh, I graduated high school. I'm a high school graduate. Oh, I graduated college. I'm a college graduate. Oh, I got this job as a banker, as a IT specialist, as a CEO, and it just goes on and on. And you can see this in a lot of people, and that they get a sense of entitlement, or on the other end of the spectrum, they're very timid, and downplay themselves because they don't feel they're good enough. And this is just all based on these labels. So like for me, for example, I myself, I was always chasing the label to be the best. um I was so caught up in being the best that I never saw that it was an actual subjective word of, because the best, depending on who that's coming from, can be defined in different ways. um I myself had my own idea of being the best, which meant, sorry, I'm just letting that car pass on the highway by our house, but I had my own idea of being the best, which was, to be better than everybody in some form or aspect, and more intelligent, have more money, have more materialistic things. And in essence, I really never cared for other human beings in trying to be the best. Um, and so I got caught up in chasing that. Um, Eventually, it was like a dog chasing its own tail, and I never realized that I was chasing my own tail. And that even if I achieved this being the best, then what? This illusion of being the best was nothing but words. I don't know if anybody's ever gone through this, but you work so hard to get something and or get enough money to buy something, and then you go to show it off to somebody and it's like they don't care about it, it's not interesting to them, and they can't relate to you, where you're like, oh, I finally got this, check it out, and they're like, oh, that's cool, and they don't even ask questions about it, and it's like, and then you have that empty feeling of, wow, I just put, who knows, whatever it may be, the amount of effort to get this thing, and the next person here doesn't care for it. And I thought it would be the greatest thing ever. Um, and so, that in chasing materialistic items like that, you get lost in yourself. You get lost in those words. Oh, if I or the ideas even at that, and your ideas are made of words. Being the best, getting this expensive item, and all that ever really matters is what it's worth to you, um, and not necessarily to somebody else, because the words are agreements to begin with. Oh, we'll decide that we can refer to this particular man-made item with this particular word, but that doesn't mean we're all going to value it the same. And that's what gets left out of those words. Especially when you start valuing yourself based on words, then that's how you get people who are depressed, or people who are they what's the word? I want to say like egomaniacs, or overly, they feel like they're better than everybody because they've done so much more than this. Um and it just, it doesn't contribute to being a human. And even that's hard to define with words, but when you look down, deep down inside yourself, we can all share, to some extent, compassion, love, um but even with that, when you're not conscious of it, oh, and that's how you had discrimination back then. Oh, that person's black and this person's white, and so a group of white people got together and said that, no, the blacks can't use the same restroom, they can't shop at the same places, they can't sit in the same spots on the bus. And this was all based on, and color is a thing, but the way they decided to approach color and label it, it created discrimination. Yet, you know, the the people who are discriminating could find love and compassion amongst themselves. That's to say, everybody has love and compassion. Everybody's who's not conscious of it knows of hateful feelings, and just pretty much the opposite of love and compassion. But when you become conscious of it, you become conscious of these labels, then you realize what they were really worth, because all the labeling and naming, describing of things, it only it draws boundaries. It draws lines around things that doesn't even they don't need lines. When you could truly observe nature and respect it for what it is, you don't need to call a tree, a bird a bird. You just outside, and that's life. If you have to call it something, you just call it life. Because once you start to label and categorize it, now you're trying to, in essence, distinguish things that we don't even truly understand. And sure, we have science that says, oh, this is how a tree grows and this is how birds generally act. But just like humans, no two birds are the same, no two trees are the same. And so we're just trying to label and categorize more and more things. It doesn't it doesn't even really amount to anything unless, perhaps that's your profession or your career. But at the end of the day, if you're not getting anything to gain from it and you're just expending thought, mind energy on something, and this gets really big in politics where 99% of us Americans aren't politicians, yet we get into arguments and debates over, values, which are nothing but in essence of trying to label, how to conduct business or life. And at the end of the day, again, you expend all this thought energy or this mind energy, and what does it amount to? Maybe, oh yeah, it felt great for your ego to prove somebody wrong or to demean their values or what they believe should be important. And it amounts to nothing because it's all an illusion in essence created by words. At the end of the day, we all know it's not right to kill another person. It's not right to steal from somebody. It's not right to um do adultery. You Um these are things we kind of know foundationally and at the core of our human being, that they create ill feelings to some extent within us and to the other person. But then, like I said, with like science, we drill that down deeper and deeper, and so we try to relate the essence of being with how a country should be ran, and we're just dividing it more and more with words. Again, we all know what's right and wrong foundationally, and that when we do something, we observe a reaction from another person. And so whether you value that labeling of right or wrong, you can observe, oh, that made that person feel bad. Oh, that made that person feel good. So getting back to the labeling though, when we talk about ourselves, you know, we talk about we or in everyday language we say I'm going to the store. I'm hungry. I'm happy. If you ever take a moment to notice, it we say that hundreds of times a day. We refer to ourselves, and even though I is considered first person language, in the essence of being, it's literally referring to yourself in third person. Okay, because you label I yourself as a noun, right? So I am hungry. It's almost like you're saying so and so is hungry. That's considered third person. But we're funny with language in that we say, oh, but if you say this character I or me, it's first person. You're talking about yourself, and yeah, we all agree that's a reference to yourself. But we language is at the core of what we understand the world to be because of how it is. We put our kids through an educational system which is just basically learning thousands of words in a certain order. History is a story of words in a particular order. Chemistry is thousands of words in a particular order. Math, and at the end of the day, numbers are words as well, are manipulating numbers in a particular order. And so, no matter how we describe it, I or me, we're referring to ourselves as a third person as if we're something different. That's why there's a saying in Zen, when hungry, eat, when tired, sleep. Don't go off in your head with thoughts or with your words. I am hungry. I don't know what I want to eat. I am tired, but I gotta do this. it takes away the essence of your being, and that now you're trying to formulate an understanding that doesn't need an understanding. If you're hungry, eat. If you're tired, go to sleep. Any other thoughts other than those is it's like radio static. Just do it. You know, and sure you might have some options when you want to eat, or um have to do some steps to create food or create a meal, but that's just all part of it. That if it's as simple as you're hungry and you can pick up a banana and eat, just simply do that. But don't think, oh, I had a banana yesterday though, or I'm gonna eat this and this for dinner later, because now you're using those illusion of words and anticipating past and or I'm sorry, anticipating the future or reflecting on the past, and you're taking away from the essence of just eating. Your body says it needs food, yet your mind is making a story about the food using words. You know, it's compiling a thousand of other words into a process or steps or in a particular order just to accomplish eating. And then the same with when you're tired, go to sleep. Don't worry about what you have to do. Your body says it needs rest. Um, don't you start thinking about, oh, I got to do this and this tomorrow, then you're doing stuff other than getting rest. Or perhaps you're finishing a project or homework or whatever it may be, and now other than resting, you're still doing all this other stuff other than sleeping. And again, this all comes down to how we understand the world to be, and additionally, that unfortunately, just the language at the core of it, how we label it, how we create our reality around it. Um, an interesting thing I want to point out is some people have done psychedelics, and they say that language and words, they see language and words almost like entities when they're hallucinating. Um, and I believe that. I've never done any type of psychedelics, but I believe that, and that in essence, some people, they say they have a devil or some type of bad karma attached to them. It could be their worst fear. Um, and when they hallucinate, they see that particular word or that idea of that fear or devil or whatever it is come to life. I could see how people with psychedelics, and it's not just on the other end of the spectrum, of fear and negativity and anything for perceived to be negative, but things that create pleasure, those two I could see coming to life as entities when you're hallucinating, and that you have some kind of attachment to them. Fear and negativity is almost like an attachment, but in a perceived negative way, and that's something we don't want. We don't want that to happen. Don't want to experience. But in reality, all of these things are just words. Um, Life happens in various ways, and it just unfolds and continues to unfold. It's like a tree growing and blossoming and shedding its leaves and repeating the process. That's much what life is like. And us as humans, being complex creatures, we try to label that and describe it, and it just creates a whole another layer of complexity to just simply living. And so you look at our world today, and if you could just imagine back before any of this was here, and people would just go hunt for food or find fruits and vegetables growing in the ground and on trees or whatever, That's how simple life could be. But at some point, we decided to put a hierarchy that, somebody can hunt better than the next person. So they're an elite hunter or they're the lead hunter. And then we took that a step further and, multiply that by 1,000 more steps. And now we have presidents of countries, leaders of nations. Um, and it's all became overly complex. Just as so the process of getting food, although it's simple as on our end when we go to the store and buy it, but now there's a whole process of growing acres of it, harvesting it, cleaning it, processing it, packing it for shipping, getting it to the grocery store putting it on the shelves. That's how complex it is to get food now. Yet we just go to the store and buy it as a again, it's kind of like when it comes to computer and software, all the user has to do is click and that's it. But somebody had to write all that code and whatnot in machine language so it could do it. Um, and that's fine. That's how life is at this point. There's no need to hate on it. I mean, I don't know how else to say other than not accept it. That's the way it is. But that just paints a picture of how our words work. Go to the grocery store and buy food. That doesn't tell you how the thousands of items got to that store. Um, and so coming to a kind of closure here, I started this whole enlightenment series on the podcast, and so this whole thing has been about enlightenment and realizing the world for what it is. And so don't get lost in chasing enlightenment. Enlightenment is not a status. It's not a label. It's being able to just be a human. You don't have to. And if you go over the hundreds of topics I've done, well, I didn't do hundreds of them, but the few topics I've done, they're the ways of perceiving the world in order to see enlightenment, to feel enlightenment. Like for today's topic, don't get caught up in the illusion of words. Last podcast, don't get caught up in the illusion of time. Um, Another one we did was duality, where with the illusion of words, calling something positive or negative, good or bad, good or evil. Don't get caught up in distinguishing things with words. Attachments. You know, Attachments begin as ideas or thoughts, whether you experienced it or you just really desire to have it or go to experience it one day. The experience will never be described by words, and so just like enlightenment, nobody can even really define enlightenment other than being able. For me at this point, I would describe it as just being able to be. And not necessarily when, like people say just be yourself, because now you're trying to define who is myself. Do you be just be. Breathe. You don't even have to consciously do that, although that's how you kind of can break out into seeing the world in a different way. But your senses, let them do what they do. Hear things. Don't label it loud or quiet. See things. Don't label them ugly or pretty. Feel things. Don't label them rough or smooth. Smell things. Don't label them stinky or pleasant or what is it? Smells good. That's getting caught in the illusion of words. And when, we talk about enlightenment, enlightenment is, it's not about preferences. It's not about what you want and don't want. Enlightenment is just being able to be. When hungry, eat. Tired, sleep. Don't add any additional thoughts to it. 'Cause then and I don't know about everybody else, but for me, my thoughts are in English. And so then they're all made up of more words, right? So if you get caught in this illusion of words and this categorizing things, it's uh it's a recipe for masking the world for what it is. And once you can take those blinders off, just take a walk outside and appreciate. And it's not, we can't even call it appreciate, but just see the world for what it is. Then you could realize, how to just be. There's no additional thoughts needed. There's no practice needed. It's just an essence of being. It's can't even put words to it. So unfortunately, that it's something that has to be experienced, and once you experience it, you can akin it or assimilate it to different things, but it'll never truly define or describe the experience. And so, that's how you have like writers that tell stories, because they're able to paint pictures with these words. That's how you have good authors. And then what do you call it? Composer, music composer. These people are able to take a beautiful, or the essence of something, portray it into one of our five senses, and to the best of their ability, to the best of our ability to comprehend the current state of the world. And it changes all the time. Like with language, it's all about what is that current state of things. So that's it for today's topic. And this is the second to last episode of the enlightening series for the Realize the World podcast. I don't know where we're gonna go after this, but I will continue to do a podcast episode every Friday. Although I'm gonna get off the boat of discussing enlightenment. Maybe talk about current affairs, or just things that I see every day. I don't know. If you guys have any suggestions, I'd kindly entertain them. But yes, you can leave those in the comments, or send them to me directly, whatever media outlet you're listening to this on. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Good Heart, iHeartRadio, a lot of Google Podcasts. You find our blog. I've got a list of them with the links. So wherever you are listening to this, follow the podcast or subscribe to it. Give likes, and all of that helps to kind of promote the content to reach more people. I myself am not so much concerned of promoting myself, but promoting the messages that I have, and that I myself have gone through a mental road of recovery, and that's where I share this information from. And out of the billions of people on this planet, I'm sure somebody could relate or see the same truth in what I say. to where it could make a difference in their life. All right, guys. So I appreciate everybody listening again for another installment of this podcast, and we'll catch you on the next one.